is Clare Cahill. She is the face behind the latest true crime series that you're binge watching on Netflix, India Detectives. Hi, hello, and welcome, Claire.
Hi, Shilpa. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I started watching the series last night and I finished it in one sitting. I have to confess, I did that, and it was so compelling and also very disturbing. And I'm sure that's the kind of reaction that you're getting from many.
Yeah, I think, crime is always a challenging subject. And what we hope we've done is offer a kind of human perspective on some of the crimes that have happened in the time that we were filming.
How did you get such unprecedented access to the police? I thought it was staged initially, and then as it progressed, I thought, no, this could not have been staged. And it was obvious that you shot, right from when the distress call came in, to with the police during the investigations. How did you manage to gain such access?
So it was a long process, and it was made over, I think our first conversations took place in 2018. Um, so we essentially we just came to the commissioner at Bangalore and asked if they would be open to allowing us with our cameras to come in and film live investigations. And then from there, once we had the kind of initial kind of uh, interest from the police themselves, we then went, to the authorities and took all the necessary filming permissions in order to capture the series. But really, to get the truth is, to get the access that we got, it was just a really big trust building process, and something that didn't happen overnight, something that happened over weeks and weeks of research, and my team kind of making themselves completely accessible to the police officers really trusting us. And then when a crime happens, just being there and showing that we were as committed to capturing the investigation as they were to filming it. So yeah, essentially, I mean, it's with the police officers, a huge kind of journey of trust to kind of, allow them to feel comfortable to let us film in the way that we did. And then obviously we filmed also with the suspects and the victim's family. So again, just, an enormous amount of time that's not on screen, obviously, but time spent with all of those people, explaining what we're doing, gaining their consent and gaining their trust to be able to film in the way that we did.
There is some criticism coming in saying, that it wasn't necessary to reveal the suspects' identities or the families' identities. How do you address that?
Well, we have consent from everyone featured in the series. So absolutely, when we were in a station and a crime was being investigated, we would have a conversation with everyone that was present when the camera was present, so that everyone knew why we were filming, what we were filming for, and how the material would be used and shared. And that extends absolutely to the suspects and the victim's family as well. So everyone was informed. Everyone, we sought consent from everyone, and everyone featured in the series gave their consent. So they feel comfortable, and I'm completely indebted to them for trusting us with such a sensitive time in their life, because it offers, I hope criticism aside, I hope people appreciate that it does offer a new perspective on these crimes. And so we're not just seeing it from the police's point of view as well, we're seeing it from the suspects and from the victim's family. But yeah, consent is in place, so we feel comfortable about using that contribution.
Well, this is a fantastic profiling of the Bangalore police, and they've been especially impressive with the cases that you featured. And I particularly found it how articulate all of them were. I found it very striking about, some of their statements were almost poetic. Did you also feel that while filming and editing this series?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's really hard to forget that when police officers, no matter where we are in the world, but when they're wearing the uniform, it's really easy to just see them as the uniform. And actually, all of them are humans, and all of them are reacting personally and responding personally to what they are engaging in. A murder is a really hard personal thing to deal with, whether you're a police officer or not. And so I think I'm just again, they were incredibly generous in their interviews and when they were talking to us about how they were responding personally to the cases, as well as, you know, allowing us to follow the professional work that they were doing. But yeah, I completely agree. There are some moments of real beauty in what the officers were saying.
When a camera is involved, right, it's almost like another character's introduced. So how did you manage to be unintrusive, and also do you feel that the presence of the camera changed the course of events in some inevitable way?
I don't think we. I mean, it was an absolute. You know, rule number one is that when we're filming in this way, we don't involve ourselves with the investigation at all. So there's no interference from the filming team or the camera. That doesn't change the course of events in any way. I think the way that we managed to hopefully capture events in the truest way is that we really didn't leave the station. So so, you know, sometimes if you just turn up for 20 minutes with a camera and you film for 20 minutes, then, you know, then sometimes, you know, things can be kind of curated because, you know, you're only going to be filmed for 20 minutes. But we, you know, some of those investigations ran for 11, 12 days, and we were there with the police throughout that whole time. And so you really cannot perform for, you know, 20 hours a day. You can't do that. So I think once the police realised that we were committed to the investigation and that we were going to film everything that we possibly could, everything that they would allow us to film, they realised that, you know, actually they just needed to crack on and do their job, and then we would just capture that as it was happening. And you know, the first couple of days, the thing that I think, especially for the wider global audience, is, you know, lots of people haven't ever been filmed in this way before, and are used to kind of a news bite or a little bit to camera, whereas you know, it was really I'm really grateful to the officers for trusting us and letting us film in that kind of really kind of holistic way, so that we could follow everything that was happening.
You know, that is the most surprising factor, the fact that, you know, they let you film all of that, and they were so open. There were moments as well, you know, where the police officer says, are you going to confess, or should I send the cameras out? Then what will happen will be very different. Or, you know, there is an officer who is you know, trying to get information out of a suspect using some level of violence, and he still allowed you to get that on camera, right? And that was quite surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, again, you know, there was a level of trust, and so, you know, we filmed everything. We filmed everything that we possibly could in connection to the investigation, and you know, at those, when the police are investigating, you know, their aim is just completely to find justice for that victim, and so, you know, we were allowed to film certain questionings. We were allowed to film, you know, even to get to have conversations with the suspect. You know, again, it's we were always working with the police, and always took their approval to be able to film. You know, we would ask, you know, can I go and speak to the suspect now? Is it an appropriate time for me to go and speak to the suspect now? And that access was always facilitated. And you know, I think criticism on the series is everyone's right to their own opinion, but I think what the series does do is it represents very fairly how an investigation is conducted, and it also offers a very rarely seen insight into what it's like to be a police officer, and rather than just seeing the khaki.
Also, I found it interesting that the producers, starting with yourself, and the executive producers are not from India. You know, so why? Firstly, how did you gain that access? Was it easier because you were an outsider? And why did you choose Bangalore to feature?
Sure. So the first question, so we were a predominantly Indian team. It was just myself and Jack Warrender, who is the series director. And then we had, we realized, you know, Bangalore's such a big city that we realized we needed a little bit more support with shooting. So another Jack from the UK came out, but the rest of the team was all Indian. And that was absolutely crucial. Not only from a kind of language point of view, you know, obviously I wish I could, but I don't speak Canada. But also just understanding, culturally understanding the way in which the police are seen in India, the way in which um, things, processes are conducted, understanding the nuances of the city. And likewise, that would be the same if I was filming in America or if I was filming in Manchester. We would always look to build a local team and use local talent. I think the reason Minnow make a series called The Detectives, which is working with one of the UK's biggest police forces. And I think what we learn through that, or I didn't make that series personally, but what the team learn is that following these investigations is fascinating, and it's a fascinating route into kind of human behaviour and seeing the police from a new perspective. And so we just really working closely with Netflix, we wanted to see if it was possible to make a series like that, find a way of making a series that followed crime in that way, but in India, because that hadn't been done before.
And why did you choose Bangalore?
Why do we choose Bangalore? Because Bangalore is in a really fascinating moment in its evolution, in its modernization. There's not a city that is modernizing as fast as Bangalore is, and you can feel it. On the streets, you can sense a much more kind of traditional India.
What one of the suspects actually, the one who was convicted, the one who actually killed her mother, I found what she said to be very haunting, and she summed it up so well, where there is a certain kind of lifestyle that so many are trying to keep up with, and how that can affect you and throw you off balance in such a dangerous and sad way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is something that resonates with young people all over the world. I think, we got excited about filming in Bangalore because it feels like a new representation of India anyway. We're used to seeing Delhi, we're used to seeing Mumbai in documentaries and films, whereas it feels like we haven't seen as much as Bangalore. So, we were excited to be there. But also, as you say, that sentiment that is captured in episode 1 is true the world over. These cities that are modernizing really quick, generations that are modernizing really, really quickly, pressures on young people. I think it's something that resonates universally. And in that, we were able to capture that sort of crime in a city like Bangalore because those are the genuine, real pressures that are happening in the city right now.
Especially the last crime that you covered in the last episode, the kidnapping. I feel like the audience was given a clue as to who could be the culprit. And I think, like, perhaps while you were filming, you could have also had some ideas. So did you share that with the police? So did you help in any way with the investigation?
No, we are purely there to capture the investigation as it happens. So we don't get involved at all with the investigation itself. We're not police officers. We're not detectives. We are filmmakers. So our job is to just capture their work, and that's what we did.
All right. And during the course of filming the series, what was the biggest revelation for you?
That's a really good question. I think the biggest revelation for me was I think there was going into the project, I think there was an expectation of finding difference when actually I think there were many more similarities between kind of policing in India and policing around the world. When you look at the challenges that police officers are faced with, limited resources, growing populations, really serious crimes, and the very limited period of time that you get in order to find that evidence, find the suspect, make those arrests, and dealing with all of the the emotional fallout and the family that are connected to that as well. I think it was really amazing to see how much the similarities that I've noted in other police forces, and the way that no matter who you are or where you are as a human, and professionally you deal with work in one way, but as a person, you really connect on a human level with whatever you're dealing with. And like you said earlier, you know, the officers, and certainly the officers that we have kind of featured in the series, had a real emotional reaction to the crimes that they were working on, and that was really genuine. You know, you can't make things like that up, and the way that they, you know, emotionally connect. And I think that was something that I hold quite dearly, actually. You know, seeing the way that those officers responded.
As an audience, you start off with a sort of voyeuristic curiosity, but listening to these officers and their almost philosophical and spiritual outlook, I think you really start looking at the cases and the police themselves through a different light.
Yeah, I think it offers a different perspective. Hopefully it offers a different perspective. And I think that's, you know, when we're making films like this, what we're always looking to do is just, you know, open the door a little bit wider and see a little bit more. And that doesn't always mean it doesn't always mean a massive turn of the wheel, or, you know, a massive revelation, but just, you know, peeling back those layers of khaki, seeing people for who they are, seeing an investigation, actually, you know, having real access to an investigation. It feels like those were really special, privileged moments that we were able to capture through the series.
Like I said, I couldn't even believe that this was real, in the beginning. And by the end of it, I was quite upset that it was all too real. And, I've been urging my friends to watch this series. Like I said, I watched it in one sitting. It's been a great pleasure talking to you, Claire, and getting more clarity on the series. I had all these questions about it, and you've answered them really well. So, the next one that's coming. So, the next season.
The next season. Well, that's probably not a question for me to answer. But you know, making this series was a real pleasure, and yeah, thank you so much for watching and enjoying, and for all your questions. It's been great talking to you.
All right, I'll be following your work. Thank you so much, Claire.
Thank you.
Thank you.